Here we are really thrilled to be working with James Ledbetter, aka the Vacuum Cleaner, and Cecilia Wee as our conference co-curators. We were originally ready to launch our conference in person in St Helens back in March, but world events required us to shift our thinking. Together with James and Cecilia, we have created this slow, evolving online space with a range of contributors over the next 4 weeks. We'd like to pay tribute to all of the contributors and partners who've taken the baton and run with this against the backdrop of an extraordinary moment of challenge. We'd also like to pay tribute to you. We appreciate you sharing this valuable time with us and look forward to being stimulated and challenged together. So without further ado, I'll hand over to James and Cecilia and this week's contributors.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
All right, thanks. How are you? Should we start?
Yeah. Let's.
Hi, and welcome to the second episode of With For About 2020, and it's the 5th edition of Heart of Glasses annual conference. So we're just going to explain what will happen today in our conference for anyone who finds that useful. This is our introduction bit.
8 films and audio pieces will be shown today. Before each film, we will introduce it, and after each, Cecilia and I will have a chat about what we've just watched. We're also going to do a lot of shout-outs today. So if you have a PayPal account or a bank account with money in it, get it ready.
And you can follow the hashtag With For About 2020 on social media for all our goings on. So towards the end of this episode, James and I will ask you a couple of questions. We estimate that this episode will be about 120 minutes or 2 hours long. So I'm Cecilia Wee, and I'm co-curator and presenter of this conference. And this is James. James, the vacuum cleaner. I know him as James. You can also call him the vacuum cleaner.
So big welcome if you're joining today for the first time. Welcome back if you joined us for episode 1 last week. Don't worry if you missed episode 1. Just you can go to the previous episode. There's a big button below you on the website withforabout.com where you can watch it whenever is good for you. If you are here for the first time, you should absolutely familiarize yourself with the safer space boundaries. Again, big button below you. Also on the About page, you can find links to Cecilia and I, should you want to.
How are you feeling about today's episode, James?
I mean, WTF, right? Like, there's a lot to share and there is a lot to talk about.
Definitely. Special shout out to all the Black folk out there and Black communities who are really hurting right now.
Yeah, this week has been super messy and very painful. Yeah.
So on today's episode of With For About, we just wanted to give a little note by way of content warning. This episode does include descriptions of experiences of racism, white supremacy, issues of police violence, environmental racism, racist occupation, and also cats. So we're showing this work with you and sharing it with you today as we think it's really powerful and beautiful, but it also shows ways of being and critiques many forms of different types of oppression, including anti-Blackness. These things haven't changed, but the world that we're in has had its everyday violence exposed front and center. So it's really impossible for us not to view this group of voices through what is happening this week, which is the pandemic of COVID-19 and the ongoing and historic and yet contemporary pandemic of racism and white supremacy.
Just a reminder that you can pause the video at any time if you need to take a moment for yourself, go and get a glass of water, a snack, have a toilet break. Please really do look after yourself whilst you're watching. If you are watching us live, you can use the chat function in YouTube to throw us questions, share thoughts, or connect with other viewers. So yeah, we're going to share our program with you, but also between each piece, we're going to do a lot of shout outs to amazing voices on social media that we need to listen to, and organizations we need to support financially and with other forms of solidarity. It's really important for Cecilia and I to remember that solidarity is an action. Solidarity is not a hashtag.
But should we just start with some work? Should we just watch something first and then, let's digest. We're going to start with something that's a little bit long. How long is it, James? Remind us.
I'm going to say 18 minutes, I think.
Thank you. We're going to start with the amazing, unparalleled one and only Lois Weaver. And I know that, James, you've worked with Lois a couple of times, right?
I have had the huge privilege of inviting Lois to show her work on a few different occasions. I've also obviously experienced Lois's work on a few different occasions. Lois is a legendary performance artist, half of Split Britches with Peggy Shaw, and I just really value what she does because she really creates these spaces to come together and have difficult conversations, to be heard. And I really hope when I get to her level, she's just amazing because she can be so thoughtful and precise in how she's making her work, and without being demanding or an asshole like I can be. So yeah, she's brilliant.
I think on that note,
she's in the chat as well, so reach out to her. But yeah,
I think on that note, let's play Lois's film. Thanks, Carl.
Hi, I'm Lois Weaver, and I would like to invite you to do a bit of porch sitting with me. Porch sitting is just a time and a space for us to be together and to wonder about the things we see, to wonder about the things around us, to wonder about what might happen in the future. And I suspect some of you have been doing some of your own porch sitting recently, staring out a window, or maybe looking out from a balcony, or maybe sitting in a back garden if you have one, or walking in the park or down the street. And if you're like me in those moments, you probably are completely surrounded by these words, almost like flies that follow you. Words like anxiety, words like pandemic, words like lockdown. And so I thought maybe what I might do with this porch sitting is to just reflect on some of these words, to look at them as possible ways to think through to the future. Maybe look at them as possible tools for making change. And because I love words, and because I love making lists, and because I also in some ways love counting, I thought maybe that what I would do is go through the alphabet with you. And I would stop and reflect on various words that begin with various letters. And then some letters will just stop for a second and you can come up with the word. And we can call that a lexicon for survival, or maybe we could call it the ABCs for change, or maybe even call it mnemonics for the new normal. So I brought along some visual aids, and we're going to start with the letter A. And for me, the letter A is assembly, and that's a very important letter for me, and probably for a lot of you who are performers, those of you who are activists, those of you who work in communities, who like to be with your families. We really depend on our ability to assemble. And we love to gather, and we have a great desire to gather. And I think that's one of the things I hope, is that we maintain that desire for assembly. And that while we're waiting to be able to assemble, that we also think through new and creative ways to assemble, even in these times. And I like the word assembly also because it talks about making things as well, like to assemble something. You have to assemble a model car, or you assemble all of your materials to make a piece of art. So I like its association with making and its association with gathering. And it's something I hope that we hold on to, that this is essential for us, and it's crucial that we maintain this desire for assembly. The bee, of course, makes me think of bees, because we're always thinking of bees at the moment, because they've become a kind of symbol for our survival now in this climate crisis. They're also a great symbol for society and how society is organized, and how they work for society as opposed to for themselves as individuals. And I heard a story recently which was a little terrifying, but it's a story about the killer or the murder bee. And apparently there's a particular kind of bee, or a particular kind of hive, that when the murder bee intrudes, what they do is they surround that bee with as many little bodies as they can muster, and they shiver and they buzz and they quiver around this intruder, and create so much heat that the intruder eventually expires. Now, I know that feels a little bit violent and somewhat aggressive, but there's something I love about this idea of simply pulling together enough energy by quivering and hovering and buzzing to generate enough heat to maintain the survival of the hive. And there's something quite wonderful about that. So bee. C, of course, for me is care, but it's also cake. And I think that in these times, cake is a delicious, sweet form of care, not only self-care, but care for others, as there's so much food being made and shared with each other. And I think if we can maintain that mode of communication, of making in order to sustain and feed each other, that would be a great thing to propel us into the future. D is distance. We're all talking constantly about distance, social distancing, and I have a great respect for social distancing. But I also like this idea of taking some distance, to keeping some distance, to be able to stand back and stay apart slightly so that we get a better look at each other, so that we get a fuller perspective of the moment, or maybe we even through distance learn to listen to each other a little better. E, I suppose, has to be eat. F for me is the word freedom. And I'm thinking about the word freedom because one of the things that's had the most impact on me while I've been sheltering in place is reading, and particularly reading various articles. And I read an article by Ibram Kendi, and this was looking at the source of the individualism that's running rampant in the United States, especially in the form of people protesting the lockdown, people who are advocating for their right or their freedom to go to work, their freedom to go out, their freedom not to be in lockdown. And he describes this as a freedom a freedom to be an individual. And that individual freedom, he says, originates from the days of slavery in the early parts of the United States history, where slave owners maintained the freedom to enslave, whereas the slaves and the people of color and indigenous peoples had to worry about the freedom from, because they were preoccupied with the freedom from harm. So that distinction between the individual's freedom to and the community's freedom from has been really instructive to me in thinking about how we look at infection. Do we have the freedom to infect? And what communities of us have to be concerned with the freedom from infection. And looking at the historic roots of that has been really important to me. So freedom to and freedom from. G has to be grief. We are in a state of mourning. We're grieving loads of things. Some of us are grieving the loss of people, loved ones. That's actual real grief. But there are those of us who are experiencing all kinds of grief. The grief of not being able to connect with people physically, the grief of loss of work, of employment, of economic opportunity, but also the loss of the ability to make our work, to perform our work, to maintain our work as we have in the past. So I think there's a lot of grief, and I think it's important to sit with it and be in it and lean into it and acknowledge it, and to say to yourself, I am mourning this. H for me is horizontal. Horizontal's the kind of life I feel like I'm living now on my street. When I think of horizontal, I think of the street lined with people who are willing and ready and able to help each other with only a phone call or a WhatsApp message. And this horizontal is a way of organizing as opposed to the vertical kind of hierarchies that we've been subject to and that have actually made our survival at this stage a lot more difficult. And that is the dependency on the vertical organization has made life more precarious, and that our horizontal organizing has provided more safety and more security and more actual help, which is also an H word. I is interdependence, like I just described it, or interspecies even. We think about how we coexist with our climate and our friends and neighbors in the climate. But I suppose the word that I can't avoid is the word infection. And I think there's a positive aspect to infection. I think we could think of ways in which we might infect each other with a sense of respect for each other, a bit more love and commitment to each other as a part of our community. I like to think of the word contagious. I would like to think that my values might be contagious, that my spirit itself might be contagious, and there might be some contagious ideas within my work that might catch on, that might attach themselves to another person or another group of people, and might want to take something that I've thought about or something that I've cared about and spread it a bit further. So the spread of infection, I like to think of as a spread of important ideas and good values. KL. Of course, the first word that comes to mind for K is kindness. But I also think of kinship. And kinship is very important to me. And I prefer kinship to family because I don't think of it as blood relations. I think of it as a group of people who come together for a particular period of time with a particular goal in mind to achieve something. And that in that action, in that decision to come together to make something or do something, that we find a way to be kin with each other. And I think that's, again, happening on my street. It's probably happening in your street. It's happening in our communities. It's even happening globally in the ways that we are finding kinship in this crisis. L, I'll leave that one to you. M. This is a big one. And M is mutual. Mutual aid. This is a term that we've been hearing a lot. There have been hundreds of mutual aid groups that have popped up in our local towns and in our communities and in the world. It's a term that I first heard in the 60s when the Black Panthers were creating mutual aid groups by creating breakfast organizations for children and food and food banks. And the idea behind mutual aid is that it's an act of solidarity within a struggling community. And it's an act of solidarity and not charity. And that's quite important. And again, charity is something that's vertical, whereas solidarity is something that is horizontal, and that makes it mutual. It goes between people. It doesn't trickle down or move up. It actually moves between. And I've been really impressed, as I'm sure you have been too, at the number of mutual aid activities around making masks, distributing gowns, shopping for people, picking up prescriptions for people, looking after, making phone calls to lonely people that have cropped up since this. And I hope that that is a network. It's an actual organizing structure that we'll be able to build on in the future so that we have a more mutually respectful and loving world. Normal. There's a lot of talk about the new normal. I don't know how I feel about normal. Actually, I don't like the word normal. I've never felt like I could associate personally with normal. In fact, for the most part, normal has failed me, and it's failed most of us. So I would say no, N-O, to normal. Instead, let's talk about queer. I identify as queer. I've identified as queer for about 40 some years, but for me, that queerness is not an identity. It's not something I look like or something I dress up as or something I call myself. For me, queer is a verb. It's an action. It's how can I queer this? How can I take what I'm given, take what's there, and turn it into something else, to make it something that's more inclusive, to make it something that's more positive, to make it something that's not restrictive or violent or harmful. So for me, I want to live in the act of queering. P, I'll leave that one to you. R, S, reside comes to mind, and stay comes to mind. I think one of the most incredible things about this time for me is the act of staying home and what that's done for me, given me a kind of time and a focus, not just on myself, but on a kind of quiet, personal existence. And it's made me think about what it means to reside, what it means to be in residence, what it means to stay, which is a word that I like to use in terms of being peaceful, to being quiet. So reside and stay is a word I celebrate when I hear the word stay home, because I have a home and I feel privileged in that. I feel happy to stay there. T-U. You. We'll go with you. Unprecedented. That's a word that we've heard over and over. Unprecedented times, unprecedented disease, unprecedented circumstances. And whenever I hear the word unprecedented, I think unprecedented, because I feel like more than anything else that what there is unusual about these times is the fact that we've had to approach them with so little leadership. It seems that all of the major countries in the world, all of the quote-unquote powerful countries in the world, Brazil, United States, UK, Russia, have acted almost as if we had no president. We were unprecedented. And what this makes me think is, how might we reconfigure leadership? What would it look like? How could we move away from the kind of patriarchal, macho, non-mask wearing, non-leading leadership that we've encountered in this crisis into something that's more caring, more inclusive, and more capable, actually. So unprecedented. This VX, a little out of order, but what this X makes me think of is extra. I realize how much I have in my life and how many things in my life that I don't really need, that I acquire things, I consume things that are in fact extra. And the staying in and the staying home and the limited movement and the necessity to work from home have made me really rethink what is extra in my life. And I hope that that's something that I might take forward, in that I might undo my need for excess and live with a little bit less and live a little bit more responsibly. W. I like to think of the word wilding. I read an article by Suzanne Moore, which she talks about the rewilding of culture. And I've been thinking about rewilding yards and fields and letting the weeds grow, not cutting the grass, letting the butterflies and the bees and the birds come into a more balanced ecosystem. And I like thinking about that in relation to culture, how we might have a broader ecosystem where we might have more cross-pollinations, where we might have some weeds growing in this cultural landscape, which very often has been way too pruned, way too cultivated, to allow for the wild and craziness that would emerge if we just let this garden grow. Y and Z. Yearning perhaps for Y, yearning for a better world, yearning for a possibility that this terrible crisis will help us change things. And Z, well, how can I not say Zoom? This is a world of Zoom. We're Zooming to you, you're Zooming to me, we're Zooming to each other. And the Zoom, of course, brings us right back to the beginning of our ABCs, which is assembly. So I hope that we're able to take all of the social media and all of the technology that we've struggled with, that we've appropriated, that we've sometimes argued with, and I hope that we might take it and turn it into a real tool for change that will enable us to make connections and keep connections and assemble and reassemble and survive. All right, that's my porch sitting. Thanks for joining me. I'd be happy to hear if you wanted to contribute words to this lexicon for survival or ABCs for change. And I hope that we can see each other again, either on this porch or on another porch someday. Thanks.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Lois.
And also thanks to everybody that helped Lois make that film and get it to us. Obviously, Lois made this film provocation a few weeks ago, and I know that she would have reflected on where we are right now if she'd made it yesterday. Yeah. Cecilia, do you want to go deep?
I liked assembly, A for assembly, and this idea of us needing to build the new, and also unprecedented, definitely unprecedented. This idea about non-leading leadership, self-determination, and finding new forms of agency to overthrow existing power structures that no longer serve people. And I for independence, because of this idea of interconnectedness and how we are interconnected. So, yeah. What about you, James?
I really liked Freedom To and Freedom From. I think that takes a lot of like deep unpacking. I'm gonna have to really like digest that for the next few weeks. Yeah. Hey, what does your badge say? I can't. It's too pixelated on my screen.
Yeah, it says, "Stop calling the police on Black people." And that's something that obviously we've been talking about quite a lot this last week. So George Floyd is one of the Black people killed by the police and anti-Black authorities in the US, but also obviously anti-Black police brutality also exists here in the UK and across Europe and in other settler countries as well. And sadly, many people in the UK, many white people in the UK don't really realize how insidious and ingrained white supremacy is, and specifically anti-Blackness is in this country. And as somebody who has light-skinned privilege, I just wanted to do a shout out to all of the Black, Indigenous folk and people of color who are living within racialized capitalism, who've been fighting racism, doing all of this work for such a long time, all their lives, for all the emotional labor that they've been bringing to educate white people before and during this moment. And I sincerely hope that this is going to be a real moment for change, where we all realize that things do have to change and that we all have a part in doing this work and that we need to keep on doing this work.
Mm. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of white noise right now, and I'm aware that this space could really contribute to that. There is a page just below called Episode 2 Shoutouts. It's just below the video, which we have all the links of all the shoutouts we're making today. And it also includes a short reading list that Cecilia has really kindly put together for.
And that's a reading list especially for today. We've also collated some shout outs and asked our contributors to send in their shout outs as well. Okay, so also today we're asking for you, our beautiful audience in the UK, as well as in the US, to make donations to Black activists. So there's a list of Black and POC-led organizations and initiatives that you can donate to, and that's all in the chat right now. It's also on our Twitter and in the episode 2 of our shout out page. Sorry, episode 2, shout out page, the one that James was mentioning just now. Please give generously whatever you can afford to help. And obviously to all of the white people out there, if you're following Black folk on social media, please do this in a respectful way. Lift up their voices and opinions and don't use them as resources for white fragility. This part of the script, by the way, was James's bit. And don't ask your Black, Indigenous, people of color friends to educate you. Google it, or ask an organization, or ask another white person. So yeah, please use the shout out list that we're providing. So the shout out list also includes a lot of sources on donating. And one of them is the Black Lives Matter resource that we've linked to. And that's got like loads and loads of things, including bail funds. So please open your wallets and donate. And if you don't know why donating to bail funds is important, then please just Google it. So I'm just letting you know that James is having some problems with his internet, and he's going to be back as soon as possible. I'm going to do this action, and James and I had planned to do it together, but I'll do it right now. Okay. We're going to do a very simple act of remembrance, and that's to remember all of the Black people who've been killed by police and authorities in the UK. And they have names, and so we'll say their names. Rashan Charles, Mark Duggan, Darren Cumberbatch, Edson da Costa, Adrian McDonald, Nuno Cardoso, Oluseni Lewis, Sean Rigg, Daniel Adewale, Trevor Smith, Sarah Reed, Jermaine Baker, Sheku Bayo, Kevin Clark, Leon Briggs, Anthony Granger, Kingsley Burrell, Jacob Michael, Mzi Mohammed Daly, Derek Bennett, Azel Rodney, Mustafa Darwood, Yassar Yaqub, Joy Gardiner, Jimmy Mubenga, Christopher Alder, Michael Powell, Ricky Bishop, Cynthia Jarrett, Darlene Atkinson, Smiley Culture, and others. Thank you to Shan on Twitter and other people who've been doing the work of compiling these names. So a couple of things that we wanted to shout out to is how to be an ally. I think James wanted to let everybody know that this is on the top of his reading list. It talks specifically about being a bystander. This is a piece by Julie Pagano. It's called "So You Want to Be an Ally?" I think James is trying to reconnect. There he is.
Sorry about that.
Are you a good ally?
Clearly not, since I just left you alone for that moment. You keep going and I'll catch up.
We're on the stuff about accomplices and bystanding. Do you want to tell us about the next reading, which is the one after the Julie Pagano?
I'm still a little behind because I had to reboot my computer. You keep going and I'm going to catch up.
Accomplices. Okay, called Accomplices Not Allies. Abolishing the Ally Industrial Complex, a provocation that was written by Indigenous Action. It's pretty spicy. It challenges and makes this deconstruction of what it is to be an ally, and reminds us about how we need to be continually checking our privileges. And when me and James tried to read it the other day, we were like, guilty. And just a reminder for everyone that let's keep on checking our privileges and trying to do better.
And white people specifically, let's remember, let's not make this about us. Let's make space. Let's educate each other. Let's support how we are being asked to support, and let's us take responsibility for dismantling our white supremacy.
Tell us, James, what do we have next?
Next we have a beautiful, funny and agitating troublemaker, theatre maker and writer called Jamal Gerard. Jamal is sharing 3 texts with us today. 2 of them, I believe, are world premieres. So how lucky are we? Carl, shall we hear the first one? It's called My Black Future Self.
In my future black life, I want to own a black power fist statue. And I want it to tell me my melanin is popping every day. And my 4C hair gives gravity a cut eye and represents African consciousness. I want to do the You Can't Touch This choreography down the street, reminding everyone of Black joy. I'd like my bedroom to play hardcore era Little Kim to reflect whatever mood I wake up in. I'll put on her green hair and then make it rain with money paid in reparations, where diamonds that were stolen but now returned. I want to only be around people who speak the truth like Pac with Biggie's flow. I'll keep an eye out for the gems Lauryn Hill has spoken about and remind them there's no time for being hard rocks. By then, I would have learned how to DJ. And I will no longer be that person requesting a song. I like there to be schools teaching Black students that their melanin is worth more than gold. And me getting away with making mediocre art and to still get praised like my white counterparts. Being able to write my Arabic name in graffiti on some colonial history and to not get arrested for it. And then I'll dress up in Missy's iconic black leather blow-up outfit to celebrate. Imagine my future black life, being in a world where melanated people only go viral for excellence and not for death.
Thank you, Jamal.
Thanks, Jamal. Jamal Gerald's My Black Future Self.
You can find Jamal's bio in the contributor page, which is just below. But Jamal has also asked us to do some shout outs for some things. Go.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Me?
I'm still having some technical difficulties here.
Okay, so yeah, please sign the Justice for Belly Mujinga petition, which is on change.org. So Belly's family are working with the TSSA union to protect and support at-risk transport workers so that what happened to Belly will not happen again. Jamal's also said would like to encourage everybody to sign the petition for justice for Joe Pedro. So Joe Pedro was a 14-year-old boy who was killed by the police in Rio de Janeiro. You can find those links on our shout out page for episode 2.
And we'll be joined by Jamal again today for 2 other pieces of writing later in the episode.
That's right. Shall I tell you about Z4 Chari's tweets?
Please do.
So yeah, I wanted to just take a moment to share these tweets from someone called Z4, the letter 4, and then Chari, which is Chary. And they said something that both me and James thought was really, really powerful about racism in the UK. So 99% of the dialogue on race in the UK is exhausted by debating whether it's okay to label a racist. Addressing the racism comes after the fact or not at all. We don't talk enough about how exhausting it is to first have to prove racism. This is here in the UK before anything is done about it, especially because you're appealing to a normative standard of respect that clearly doesn't exist in a lot of people. There are people who will never experience racism or marginalization who speak authoritatively on these topics, saying things like, I don't see how it's racist, or if you said the reverse to me, I wouldn't be offended, or XXX, insert your name, doesn't mind. The last one, XXX, doesn't mind, is an especially grim tactic because it's literally using the fact that most, and this is what the Twitter user says, that most BAME people are vastly outnumbered and therefore less vocal in the professional and social environments that they navigate to their advantage. So, James.
Thank you for reading that for us, Cecilia.
Yeah. Dude, tell us what's next.
I love that you call me dude. It's like we're in the early 90s or something. Yeah, so next up we have Kanngieser, who has made a video lecture about memes, and these memes being about environmental racism during COVID. I have had the privilege of knowing Kanngieser for about 16 years, and they tell it like it is, with kindness and directness. So yeah, strap in, because here we go. Carl, hit it.
Hi, my name is Anya Kanngieser, and I'm a geographer working with sound to understand how communities come together around environmental violence. Because I spend so much time thinking about how people, especially white people, think about nature, I want to talk today about a meme that I keep seeing over the past few months that I've been in self-isolation as a disabled person at high risk of coronavirus. So around mid-March this year, just when coronavirus was really sort of starting to take off and really hit a lot of European media, images began to appear of what was said to be the canals of Venice returning to their natural state. So images with crystal clear blue waters, so clear that you could see little fish swimming underneath, white sand on the bottom of the canals, swans floating in pairs looking for food. There were also images actually that came of dolphins that was said to be returning to the canals of the city. And one of the first tweets that featured these images was liked close to 1 million times and retweeted almost 300,000 times. And it actually ended up giving rise to what was really a new wave of fascination with nature and what happens when people disappear. So, of course, it turned out that these images weren't real. The photos of the swans were taken by the island of Burano, which is nearby to Venice, about 4 miles outside of Venice, and is a really common spot for swans to congregate. The videos of dolphins were actually recorded off the coast of Sardinia, which is an Italian island in the Mediterranean and around about 480 miles away from Venice. And as experts pointed out, the clarity of the water, the fact that the water was so clear in the canals, didn't actually mean that it was cleaner. All that it really showed was that since the lockdown had forced the reduction of boat traffic in the canals, the sand stayed on the floor of the canal rather than being churned up by the motors, which is what made the water in the canals murky. So the fact of this fakery didn't stop the proliferation of media posts and reports celebrating the pure nature that we discover when the world is seemingly brought to a halt. What I want to talk about is the cost of this nature, why this cost has always been there, and why it fundamentally requires a sacrifice of people most minoritized within white supremacist capitalist systems, namely Black people, Indigenous people, brown people, disabled people, poor people, and elderly people, in this case, amongst others. This cost is contentious to talk about because there's also no denying that the lockdown of most industry and travel has changed the environment in ways that are beneficial. For instance, less cars and planes means that air quality is increasing in some major cities, and that means that the air is easier for people to breathe. There's also been a noticeable audibility and visibility of birds and other animals in urban spaces, which is a sign of shifting ecosystems. The limitations on human movement has also meant that people have been encouraged to look at the green space around them and to become more appreciative of what they have around them. And, you know, it's long been noted that access to green space is really important for health. So whether or not these changes are long-term or short-term, nobody really knows. But what is for sure is that there is this imaginary that in order for the world to heal, people have to be abolished. So, we are the virus. We are ruining the world. When we die, the world can flourish. Or something like that. Whatever way you want to look at it, it's an eco-fascist take. As an ideology, eco-fascism puts the perceived well-being of the earth, of nature and animals over everything else. It brings together neo-Nazism with environmentalism and is based on this idea that everything was better when everybody stayed in their place. So it's anti-migration, anti-multiculturalism, pro-racial and ethnic segregation. It is, of course, totally Eurocentric and bound up with fantasies of parochial Nordic and Germanic histories before industrialization. So if you picture the white, blonde, Aryan children frolicking around the meadows, you've pretty much got the idea. It's based on the idea that nature is something that we are not part of. It's this wild, exotic, sublime form of life that can either only be tamed or given over to. That it's somewhere out there, not human. The same mindset is found in the identification of Black and Indigenous people as antithetical to whiteness, as non-human, but still as less than nature. The nature revered by white supremacy is bound up with the dispossession and genocide of Black and Indigenous people. It's not a kinship with land, it is its possession. So, this probably isn't at the forefront of people's minds when they say they enjoy hearing the birdsong every morning. They probably aren't consciously channeling eco-fascist sentiments. But it is important to think about what kinds of ideas underpin this fantasy of nature healing. What are its legacies, so to speak? Fundamental to understanding this is asking the question, who has to die so that the world can live? Who has to be sacrificed? In all of this, let's not be ambiguous about who the we is. That is the virus. We is not white people, it's not rich people, it's not healthy people. We is whoever is seen as surplus. This is at its foundation an unequivocally racist and eugenicist argument. Eco-fascist movements have been calling for the reduction of populations for decades. To their minds, the less people there are, the less heavy the strain on natural resources. The problem is the people that they want to disappear are not, generally speaking, the people who are using the most. Rather than seeking to eradicate the inequalities of hypercapitalism and colonial extraction, where resource-rich countries are mined to destruction by colonizer countries like the UK, Australia, America, Germany, China, Russia, and Canada for their oil, minerals, and gas, they want Black, brown, and Indigenous people to die. Disabled people, Jewish people, poor people, transgender people, old people, all the people who aren't valuable to society, those are the people that there are too many of. Those are the people that need to be sacrificed so that nature can heal. Eco-fascism is a white supremacist take on environmentalism. It's the alt-right of environmentalism. Not all environmentalism is eco-fascist, but all white environmentalism certainly does need to interrogate the kinds of fantasies it draws from to ensure that it staves off the fascist creep. The fantasies of nature is healing, we are the virus, is drawing from are not benign, that is to say, they're not innocent. And there are definitely echoes, if not outright sympathies, within many contemporary environmental groups today. As I said, for most people, this isn't what they think of when they see that meme. It's not what they think of when they watch a 24-hour goose cam or videos of sheep overtaking McDonald's or stories about eels in zoos forgetting what humans are. I know this because I also watch those videos and I laugh and I cheer on the sheep and the geese. It's not what I think of when I recognize how quiet it is without planes and cars, and I am grateful that the air is clearing up. It's also not what I think of when I sit in a tree with my kid. At the same time, though, I know it's there, and you barely have to scratch the surface to find it. I was born and I live on land brutally stolen from Aboriginal people. a genocide in every conceivable way that is ongoing. We all live on lands with histories, and for me, when I think of those very earnest nature is healing memes, they are haunted by this fact. This haunting comes out in other ways. Pretty much right after the Venice Canal tweet came out, social media was inundated with counter memes making fun of the original tweet. Nature is healing, we are the virus, mutations like these. While these mainly exist to poke fun at misinformation, to my mind they also unintentionally do a lot of conceptual work. Through parody, they highlight what gets to be nature and what is man-made. And I don't think they're doing this on purpose, but by making us think, even for a moment, hang on, what does nature is healing even mean? They destabilize the idea of nature as somewhere out there, untouched by humans, uninhabited by humans. They say, hey, nature is not dolphins swimming in a canal because people have isolated themselves indoors. Nature is a bunch of Boris bikes that have been chucked into the Thames. I don't know if these responses actually function as a critique of humans or a comment on the ways in which humans and environments adapt to and evolve with one another, but they smear, they mess up the moralistic narrative that the initial Venice tweet was holding on to. And that is a necessary response. That moralism needs to be revealed. It needs to be shown for what it is. By pushing us to see nature as totally entangled with humans rather than distanced from us, these ridiculous images of lollipops growing in the ground, or ghosts in the street, or toilet paper on shelves, or animals doing whatever, reminds us of the way that we are a part of everything around us. And it's fitting that they were born out of boredom during a pandemic, a global pandemic, that was most likely caused by humans bulldozing animal habitats for more plantation land. Because everything we do to the world gets done to us. The histories we live are the histories we repeat. And we haven't yet figured out how to relate differently to one another and to our surroundings. But maybe we will. Maybe we'll figure out that nature is us and that we are nature. And in order for other worlds to be possible, we have to break apart the white supremacist logics that tell us that others have to die in order for us to live. It's really critical that we do. Thanks.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's really great to have put environmental racism into an international perspective and to acknowledge how this appears within different spheres of culture.
Yeah, I've already watched this presentation quite a few times already, and I really needed it. And I would also really strongly recommend that you watch AM's recent piece, which was made for the Sonic Acts Festival in Amsterdam, which is called Listening to Ecocide, which goes into detail about the work they've been doing listening to activists in Nauru, which is the island that the Australian government used to detain migrants, and it's also had huge stripping of resources there. So yeah, all us white environmentalists need to really interrogate our practice 100%.
Yeah, I feel like it was really good it was so good to hear, and I feel really thankful that AM is just identifying all these things and being really, really clear about what is going on.
Absolutely. And it's not just the environmental movement, but also this whole arts and climate change scene here in the UK. We just really need to sort it out because we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and I just wanted to give a massive shout out to one organization that is based here, which is the brilliant youth-led POC arts and culture organization, Voices That Shake. And they've been working on issues of race, ecology and power since they started 10 years ago as a project from the environmental arts organization Platform London. And out of this birth 10 years ago has grown like some amazing initiatives such as the Healing Justice London organisation and initiative. So yeah, big shout out to Voices That Shake and everybody who has worked with them and works with them right now.
Also, AM asked us to do some shout outs. So to PANG, which is the Pacific Network on Globalization. They are an organization in Fiji working to raise consciousness and fight resource extraction, including land grabbing, seabed mining, and explore alternative developments such as food sovereignty. Big up to them. DIVA, Diverse Voices on Action and Equality, who are Fiji also, a network of lesbians, bisexual women, trans men, and gender non-conforming people working on gender, ecology, ecological justice. Big up to them.
And also Jojacum, who are based on the Marshall Islands, and they're a non-profit dedicated to empowering people in the Marshall Islands, especially youth, to turn the tides and become change makers and creators, and also to contribute to making sure that their lush and beautiful islands can thrive.
Also, just shout out to AM for the work that they do as a disabled artist. Like they really push themselves really hard to listen to these experiences. And I was chatting with them this morning, and just knowing the impact it has on them is big work, and I really appreciate what they do. Cecilia,
Next. Yeah.
I have a little something for you. So we're going to be joined by Selena Thompson and Bella, or as it should be, Bella and Selena Thompson, who have made a film specifically just for you. Let's have it.
So last week, Cecilia said she wanted to get closer to Bella. So I thought we'd start this week with getting as close to Bella as I ever get, which is being woken up by her at 7 a.m. every morning. The most important way in which Bella enables me to survive is that she forces my life into a very strict routine, like a sort of very cute dictator. So yeah, this is how I wake up. Thanks, sweetheart.
Bella! Oh my god! Thank you so much, Selena.
Thank you, Bella.
I feel all like fluffed and furry. So good. What's happening now?
We've got another contribution
Oh, yeah.
from Jamal, which is an excerpt from their piece Idol.
That's right. But do you want to tell us about Idol, because you saw it before lockdown, right?
Yeah, I saw Idol. Jamal's piece at the Yard Theatre, and it is stunning, beautiful, knotty, difficult performance looking at Black idols in popular culture and his relationship to them. So, you know, Queen Bee and like Grace Jones, very important for me as well. And it's in this kind of sumptuous, beautiful set with like this amazing live music, and he just speaks really beautifully about the complexities of like idols and kind of how capitalism consumes idols and what that means for Black identity. And he was touring the piece and couldn't finish the tour because of lockdown. So I really hope, to all the UK venues, global venues out there, go out and book this piece because it is just fantastic. Yeah. Shall we have a bit of that piece now? Cool.
My mother is parting my hair, greasing my scalp with hair food, and we talk about men. And she spills the hottest tea about some of our neighbors, whilst putting my hair in two-strand twist. One Sunday, after she finished my hair, I had to babysit my little brother Deshaun as my mother and sister Celeste went to church. He asked me, "Who's your favorite superhero?" And I said, "Batman." I then asked, "Who's yours?" And he said, "Evil Black Panther, aka Killmonger." He likes Killmonger better because he looks cooler. He also said that he wants to be African because of him. He jumped up and down, saying each line, going from a stereotypical American accent to a generic African one, and reenacted each fight scene, from the kicks, the falls, and even the explosions. I sat and smiled for a bit, because I'm happy that my little brother can see himself in someone powerful. A superhero, or even a supervillain. And I'm happy that my brother doesn't have to do what I did. Search for portraits of himself that don't exist. Whenever I see myself, I know where I'm going. And when I don't, I'm trying to figure out where to go. I want Deshaun to take up as much space as humanly possible. And I'll encourage my fellow melanated ones to do the same. Ashe.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Jamal.
Thank you, Jamal. A couple of shout outs. We wanted to do a couple of shout outs to UK Black youth organisations. So first up is Kids of Colour, who are a Manchester-based initiative supporting young people who are experiencing police violence. Another organisation that we wanted to mention is Forefront Project, and they're based in London, and they're youth-led, and they're using transformative justice and healing methods to try and abolish state violence. We also wanted to mention No More Exclusions, who is a grassroots coalition movement trying to centre young people of colour who've experienced school exclusion. And in general, like, we wanted to do a shout out to all of the brilliant Black artists and activists in the UK, as well as, of course, around the world. But just since we're speaking from the UK right now, yeah, thank you to everyone, and shout out to you all who've been paving the way for systemic change and doing the work of decolonizing for years and years and decades, like, for example, the Black Arts Movement and Southall Black Sisters.
We're going to spend the next 25 or so minutes listening to a conversation between three women, Dr. Hannah Kienzler, Professor Rita Jackman, and Dr. Wiam Hamuden, who are all like these super amazing organizers and academics, and they're having a three-way conversation between three friends that is just really special. This is a chat about women's labour under racism, capitalism, and occupation, but specifically during the pandemic.
So you can see the biographies of these three amazing women if you go to the contributors page of the website withforabout.com. So just find the big button that says contributors on the website, which you can probably see below this video screen. So Carl, please play this piece.
Great. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. How are you doing?
We're okay. Doing well. Exhausted, but well. How are you?
I'm fine, trying to keep safe, stuck at home for quite a while now. But that's the way it is. And we are blessed compared to other people. And as we are blessed because of lots of reasons too. We are a fantastic team working together in the area of war, conflict, and mental health for quite a while. And we've been doing some research and training together. And this, we've been discussing issues related to women during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're beginning to do some work in the area. And right now we are reflecting on the issues that came out when we did some selected interviews or with other women, or we asked them to write down how they feel, because so far the major issue is children and older people and lockdown and home teaching, and so far not much has come up on the issue of what happens under the COVID-19 pandemic to women. And so this is what we will be discussing today between the three of us, right?
Yes, and I think what is going to be nice that it is a reflection on women's experiences in Palestine and in the UK. So looking at similarities, differences that we explore.
So for example, in the UK, you have patriarchy and you have COVID, but you have capitalism. Yep. Here, we have a patriarchy, we have COVID, and we have Israeli military rule over Palestinian land, which is also a form of capitalism, racism. So that should be an interesting discussion. Okay, who would like to begin asking questions, reflecting?
Rian, do you want to have a go?
Sure. So I think we've been hearing a lot about how, and you know, like from the very beginning, it's like really important to stay home and who's at risk and who's at greater risk. And like Rita said, you know, there was a lot of attention on older people and we've, you know, and in the beginning we were also hearing that women are like less likely to have COVID and tend to have less severe symptoms. But what's interesting to me is, you know, everybody says, you know, we have to stay at home. And like for us, for example, we shifted quickly to online teaching, and that's been done at the schools, but then nobody ever really talks about who's then responsible for the online teaching and all these other responsibilities. And what we've been hearing a lot from a lot of women around us is that, you know, they are just exhausted because they have all these responsibilities at once, and they're expected to take them on, sometimes having to do their work very late into the night because they have to take care of the kids and teach them during the day. And then another big issue that we've been hearing a lot about, that I think maybe we can reflect on a bit more, is there's this fear that domestic violence might also increase, especially as women are spending more time at home and sometimes, you know, and with their abusers. So like we see it a lot in the media also, in different organizations creating like hotlines for these women. So yeah, it's a lot, I guess.
Yeah. Just to jump in on the issue around domestic violence, I think what we're seeing here in the UK, on the one hand, we see that it is rising. So I just read in a Guardian article that deaths from domestic violence between March and April have almost doubled compared to last year, but that also the support services are being scaled back due to the lockdown and social distancing. So women who are, I guess, in already abusive relationships have it really, really difficult at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And maybe we can refer to like this one quote that the students had collected, and where one woman describes her experience, and she says, "There is so much to do. I must teach the children, so I'm a teacher, plus I have to clean and cook. And it's unbelievable. They keep asking for food and more food. And when they are stuck inside, they eat a lot, so I have to keep preparing food. And then there is the strict sanitary cleaning. So by the time my husband is home, I'm exhausted. I really must go out for some fresh air. I need to go for a walk." And, you know, and she says this with like a lot of desperation. And I think that's something that we've been hearing a lot from women. It's just they're exhausted by the multiple demands on their time. And there's, you know, there's just this expectation that this is by default their responsibility without taking into account how this is actually affecting them and their well-being as well.
Yeah, this is so interesting, and I suppose I have heard in a way similar things here, but then I asked a woman who is in her 50s and is obviously not taking care of her children because they have grown up, and as it is in the UK, live on their own with their own families. And what she felt in a way very blessed with the things that she had, her job. She found new love, which she wrote in a beautiful way, but really felt that she struggled by not seeing her married children and grandchildren. And she wrote to me saying, my daughter had a baby just 2 weeks prior to the lockdown, and I had been so looking forward to spending time together with her new baby. This has felt quite devastating at a time as we both feel robbed of what should have been our special mother and daughter time. But at the same time, they are finding also new ways of connecting between the families, using Zoom, using FaceTime. She is taking more care of her older father, who has to self-isolate than she probably did in the past.
Yes, and imagine if women on top of this must also work outside the home. For example, women, several of the women that we teach got reports, and actually they are working in the health sector. But we have reports that indicate that positive and negative, actually. On the one hand, they're forced to go to work, there's no choice. On the other hand, they have to leave their children behind. On the third hand, when they come back home, they have to deal with the chores and homeschooling, the food, etc., as we noted. But there are also positive parts that we can note. For example, with one nurse who is in her 30s and works in a rural area, reported that she still visits a bedridden patient to install urinary catheters, and she took all the precautions that are needed and gave all sorts of recommendations for the family of the patient for proper quarantine, etc. I found that this was quite remarkable, that this nurse would actually go on a home visit in a village that we know was facing an increasing prevalence of COVID-19 infection. I thought that was remarkable.
Wow. Yeah, also I think here in the UK, a lot of the care workers are women, often from minority groups or from elsewhere outside the UK, doing remarkable work at this time, often for very little pay. And I was wondering whether I could just read a quote from one of the women who is working as a support worker for people with disabilities.
Sure.
So she told me, and it was a very emotional conversation, and so because their work is just so invisible, has always been invisible and continues to be kind of invisible now. And she said, I just want to tell you about the situation that we're facing. Most of us support workers are Black women. I know that we are on the forefront at the moment. We love our job, but the way how the money, so the salary is not, well, we are not happy about the money. We're not happy about the situation of the whole system. I know that we can control some of the things, but some of the companies and big bosses treat us like children, which is not good. But my concern is that they should respect us as key workers for more money. It is so stressful. To me, it is stressful. All we want is just to do our work and to be respected for what we're doing. We need especially more money as we're putting ourselves at risk all the time. And I think what is important to note here that these jobs have been undervalued for years and years. And a woman like this who is on the front line every day earns £1 over the minimum wage, which is comes to about £9 per hour. So to make a living in London, you can imagine how many extra hours you would have to work. So very
That,
exhausting.
it's remarkable because here you have racism, pandemic, and capitalism, which introduces poverty and, you know, work that is not provided for adequately because somebody else is making that money. So labor, amazing, amazing story.
And I think like there's this other issue that's been coming up quite regularly is that a lot of these fields that are now like considered to be essential, care workers, people that work in delivery and other things, they're also, like you said, Hannah, fields that have been undervalued and underpaid. And now it's, in different parts of the world, we're paying lip service to these fields and saying they're essential and that we appreciate all that they're doing. But at the same time, are we actually providing these people with the protections that they need? And are we providing them with a dignified livelihood? And I think, this is a conversation that needs to continue even beyond COVID.
Absolutely. And I found it strange that they would call them heroes. Instead of calling them heroes, let them get protected. Give them protection and give them more money.
Yeah.
Yes, that's how you should then treat your hero, I suppose. Otherwise, it's just lip service and the clapping that we have here in the UK. Every Thursday, people are in the street clapping for the health service, but to some of them, it feels like a slap into the face.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it, that the powers that be are actually pushing towards making people who are not remunerated sufficiently work harder for very little. I find it crazy.
Yeah. And what we're also seeing now is like the people who are very wealthy have actually become a lot wealthier during this crisis. So you have the top billionaires making a lot more money while most other people are struggling, and millions of people around the world are becoming unemployed or going without pay because of the crisis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if we should also reflect a little bit about the women's situation in academia and what your experience is with that. So your own personal experience at the moment.
Maybe personally I'm lucky, but I observe the women around me, my co-workers. And in academia, publish or perish is the thing.
Yeah.
Or at least here, you will not get promoted. You might stay on your job, but you don't get promoted. And what's happening is that the men are writing. Take a look at the international publications. How many women have managed to publish about COVID? Because the women are stuck taking care of the children, doing the homeschooling, etc. And I think the pattern here is similar to the pattern in the West, whereby if you look at academic journals, you'll find that the large majority are actually men who are writing. The question is why? What are the women doing? And why are women, even in the democratic Western world, relegated to childcare a lot more than the men? I think I read somewhere that about 2/3 of the childcare is done by women, even in the United States. And my question is, and I think I have a potential answer, but we want to hear, because I thought about it so many times. Why is it that women endure this unequal distribution of workload at home? Why is it that they do that?
Yeah. Difficult question. And just what I wanted to, segue maybe in is to say also what you were saying, Rita, about the structural issues that structure these kind of inequalities, whether it's with regards to gender or development, etc. I mean, these are not new. They're not all of a sudden appearing as we're hit by COVID, but these are structural challenges we have been facing for years and years and years. And of course now some of them get exacerbated or they become more visible. And I think maybe so much just haven't changed in gender relations. It was just more invisible, or it appeared on the outside more equal. Because also here in the UK, it has been found that mothers are providing about 50% more childcare compared to the men under lockdown. And so we see these patterns as well.
Yeah.
Quite. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's another interesting thing. I read another article recently where it was saying that, women are actually, a lot of different data coming out is saying that women are putting in more work. But there was another article that was basically saying that men tend to overestimate how much time they actually contribute, or how much they contribute to childcare and other domestic responsibilities. And I think we do hear that a lot where, because sort of men helping out has kind of become an exception, because like you're saying, these are sort of norms or structures that have already been in place. It's not something that's new with COVID, but has maybe become more pronounced. And so, but it's almost as if like when men are actually contributing, it's like, oh, let's clap for them because this is kind of like they're going out of their way and this is not something that they normally should be doing. But at the same time, more and more women are actually joining the labor force, and domestic work is actually labor. It's just unpaid labor, and I think we need to remember that.
Yes.
And so for them, it's kind of like, yeah, if they're nice enough, they can take part, and this is just how, an indication of how supportive they are. But then for women, it's almost as if they have to justify being outside or away from their children by then trying to overcompensate. And we used to hear that a lot from our colleagues, where sometimes they would even feel guilty, and this is pre-COVID, when they would, want to spend more time on the research or doing work rather than spending time with their children, which was what was expected of them. And I think that's part of it. Part of it is sort of these values we've come to internalize, and like the roles that are also, embedded within a patriarchal system.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly what Althusser noted: infrastructure, the economy, and superstructure, what maintains the economy as is. So, for example, socialization, the family, religion, school, etc. They raise women to feel that it is their responsibility. They even discuss in the local context that it is innate. So, غريزة. What is غريزة? Innate.
Yeah,
Innate. And that's what they have to do. So that's one part. That's one part which is very important. So women, no matter how much they get educated, it's all ingrained and embodied actually, so that they have to concede to their subjugation, which is quite remarkable. Now, in my experience, that's only an observation. They get into marriage, they start having the children, etc., and they take up this responsibility. But as there's more work, more children, more stuff, they begin to suffer, but then they have to endure. And one reason, it seems, why they have to endure is the children. If they break up the marriage, women become much poorer. Women lose the right to have their children, at least in this country. And so poverty and the children is, it seems, what keeps women down in an unequal marriage, whereby even help is not achieved. And by the way, work, housework, childcare should be shared rather than help. So I think perhaps these are some of the constraints which make women endure a very difficult situation, very difficult.
Yeah, and I think it also continues also for women who, and I think we need to think about them too, who don't have children, who might not be married, but who are still subjugated to these patriarchal and domineering structures, whether it's in society, the workplace, or at home, in whatever relationships they're in.
Yeah. You know what happens to these women? Then they become slaves taking care of their older parents or the children of their brothers.
Yeah, in the Palestinian context.
But I think also but even for women who are maybe have more of the financial independence and are working, sometimes you see these roles also play out in the workplace. And we hear that a lot about also in academia, where women tend to do more of the pastoral work or the work, the care work, even with students and taking on responsibilities at the university, that men are not expected to do with the same kind of care, whereas they can focus more on like publishing and you know, these more like administrative promotions. And I think you see that in most universities around the world, where higher level admin tends to be more skewed towards men. Whereas women also end up having to do this kind of care work within the university system as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Shall we draw to a close here? Because I think there's just so much to discuss. We could go on forever.
Yeah, what is it that we can say? I mean, in my view, and I'm sure you agree, this is what we all discussed together. What happened with COVID is that it simply exposed underlying inequalities, whether it's women, whether it's poor people, whether it is whatever it is. So it's like exposure, bared things that were lying down there below, and people being silent about, right?
Yeah, maybe not completely silent, because I think one thing we do need to remember is people are not without agency. And there might be more silent ways of protesting. And I think we should keep in mind that we're not passive victims of this as well. So,
this is a nice.
Very good point. Very good point, because we ourselves are struggling with these structures of domination. But at the same time, you know, I will tell you the truth. I'm so tired of all this. I'm so tired of all this. And I want to tell you, some women screamed, I don't want to be resilient. I can't take it anymore. So on the one hand, yes, we have agency. On the other hand, agency can be used in a negative way against us, just like it is used in a negative way against Palestinians, because the world says, I mean, articles say, we're under occupation, we get exposed to violence, etc. And they say, that's okay, they are resilient. So there must be a balance between these two arguments.
Yeah. But it's important to maybe shift the conversation in terms of how do we actually go about building the world that we want to see. And I think there are different forms of solidarities that already exist that we can build on and maybe situate our work within, rather than just kind of point out these inequalities without tying them to, you know, just to how we can actually engage differently in the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Quite.
We're back.
We are back in the room. So apologies to our audience for that, but also to Wiam, Rita, and Hannah. We're going to make sure that the full length of that video is on the website later this evening, so you can watch it back in full and get a sense of what they're saying without the internet interrupting everything. Yeah, but big love to Wiam, Rita, and Hannah, but also to all the people they invited to contribute and that they interviewed and the voices that we heard. Also later today, there will be a document with the quotes from all the people that they interviewed on the website. It's not up there yet, but it will be soon. Cecilia, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not too stressed.
Eh?
You're not too stressed.
No, I'm fine. Yeah.
Really?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm all right.
You're really cool under a crisis, aren't you?
I think you're going to ask me a question.
I'm about to. Tell me anything that you want to drill down into about that. Like, and I mean, obviously it's super amazing, but go on.
Yeah, I love the way that they call out expropriation, and also, yeah, just name and identify the necessity for creating new ways of being. And obviously, I'm like really struck, like as we both were when we first listened to this, by the honesty of their reflections. And it's really valuable to have this kind of like space to talk about the similarities as well as the differences. Obviously, like there's such massive differences in terms of the living conditions and the privileges that we have and we experience in the West. But then also, as Hannah says, there's not that much has changed in terms of gender relations and the specific burdens and responsibilities that women have in their gendered roles within capitalism. So, yeah. How about you, James?
Yeah, I mean, I really was drawn to the word exposure in it, like how we are exposed to the virus. I feel exposed to capitalism. It's just great. You've said it all already. Can I do some shout outs?
Go for it.
So firstly, shout out to Hannah, Rita, and Liam, because they donated their fee for the conference to the Palestinian Counseling Centre, and you can check them out on the internet. There'll be some links in the shout out section on the website. Rita and Liam also want to do some shout outs for the following organisations: the Women's Centre for Legal Aid and Counselling, who are continuing to provide a helpline in e-counselling services to women in Palestine, especially those encountering violence during the pandemic. Big up to them. MIFTA, which is a Palestinian organisation promoting democracy, centering rights and empowerment of women, young people and disabled people. The Jerusalem Legal Aid and Human Rights Centre, which is a pioneering human rights organisation in Palestine, providing pro bono legal aid, awareness and advocacy efforts in tackling violations made by the Israeli government, the Israeli occupying forces, and also the Palestinian Authority. And finally, the Rural Women's Development Society, an organisation addressing the specific needs of people in Palestinian rural areas. So big up to all those organisations. Check on the links in the shout out section. Educate yourself on what they're doing, because they are super rad, super amazing organizations working in very challenging environments. And
we recognize that like there is we're sending and we're talking about quite a lot of links today, so just take your time to dig into that, and it's all on the website, and it's on the episode 2 shout outs tab on the website with4about.com. So we have another little gem from Jamal Gerald. It's called, should we just
go into it?
Yeah. It's called My Blackness. Hit it, Carl.
My blackness brings euphoria and trouble. It flutters through paranoid minds and comforts the socially conscious. It's the smile Black children have after getting their hair braided. My blackness gives applause to the big lips that were made fun of in high school, and gives sunflowers to the ones that don't love their blackness yet. My blackness is a rebel for the sake of it. It likes to entertain itself. A god that's multi-layered and never one-dimensional. My blackness sweeps, is powerful and delicate, but my blackness ain't here to hold your hand. My blackness doesn't start and end with slavery. My blackness will fuck you up, no. It ain't salty, it's honeyed. Tastes like freedom, smells like wisdom, feels like praise. My blackness, my blackness, my blackness is dope.
Thank you, Jamal, again for your beautiful contribution to the conference. It's so good to just have you here and sharing your beautiful, beautiful work. Cecilia, what are you drinking at the moment?
Some green tea and also a water, because I like to have 2 drinks.
Oh, well done. Maybe that's why you're calmer, because I had coffee and water, because I'm like tired. Shall we do some more shout outs?
Yes, please. You start.
Okay, so I wanted to do a couple of shout outs to people I'm following on Instagram. So shout out to Dred Scott Art, the amazing Black American artist. Shout out to You Are Doing Great. That's the letter U, letter R, Doing Great, which posts like amazing like videos with text about Black identity and trans identity, and like calls people out all the time. Really great. Shout out to Crutches and Spies podcast, which is on the main reading list. Also very good on Twitter, looking at the intersections between blackness and disability. And one that came to me this morning, again, get your wallets out. This is shout out to Black Minds Matter UK. That's Black Minds Matter UK, who are doing a big funding drive to provide therapy and psychological support to Black people.
Cool. Thank you, James. I wanted to do some shout outs to the Loveland Foundation, and that is a US nonprofit that started by the visionary Rachel Cargill. You can follow both Rachel and the Loveland Foundation on Instagram as well as other places. And the Loveland Foundation provides financial assistance for Black women and girls seeking mental health support. I just also wanted to big up Rachel Cargill's lecture series, which is called Unpacking White Feminism. And it's all about like the history of feminism and race. Obviously, we also wanted to mention, in case you don't already follow them, No White Saviors, and they're going to be joining us for a future episode on With For About. I also wanted to mention a new-ish initiative, which is called Resourcing Racial Justice. And it's a UK-wide funding pool, and its intention is to support individuals and communities working towards racial justice, and it's led by some brilliant activists who are all people of colour. This has probably been, I think this has been doing the rounds a little bit in terms of shout outs, but also important to mention an initiative that's been going since 1997, and that is the United Family and Friends campaign. And they are a UK organisation supporting those people affected by deaths in police, prison and psychiatric custody. And yeah, they've been doing this stuff since 1997, so that's pretty like long time. I have a few more. Is that all right with
Of course.
We're going, right?
Yeah, we're going. Like, take your time. It's good to know this stuff. We're going to take our time with it.
All right. So I wanted to pick up this Instagram account of The Conscious Kid, and especially the white supremacy pyramid. This is also on episode 2 shout out page, as is everything else that we've mentioned. So yeah, just check out this white supremacy pyramid, and that pyramid is adapted from a graphic originally created by Safe House, and I'll just tell you a little bit about Safe House. But basically, this white supremacy pyramid mentions all of the following things. So yeah, shout out to all of those Black and Indigenous folk and people of color who've been enduring overt and covert white supremacy, whether that is microaggressions, tone policing, gaslighting, paternalism, respectability politics, and experiencing all of those burdens of these different types and techniques of white supremacy within their workplaces, within institutions, within the systems and places that they thought were safe, and the systems that are supposed to keep them safe. So yeah, big up to the totally legendary Safe House Progressive Alliance for Nonviolence, who are out there in Boulder, Colorado, who first started this white supremacy pyramid. They've produced this amazing document, which is called Building a Multi-Ethnic, Inclusive and Anti-Racist Organization. So it's a bunch of tools for liberation for anti-racist activists, allies, and critical thinkers. It's, of course, on the episode 2 shout out page, but it has it's just got some brilliant resources on it, including a reference to the problem women of color in the workplace graphic. And that graphic, in case you don't know it, really spells out like some of the issues, really breaks it down in terms of the types of issues that are faced by women of color in workplaces. And it was originally created by COCO, and they are the Center for Community Organizations, which is a social justice support organization out there in Quebec in Canada. So big up COCO for this extremely powerful graphic.
Wow. Thank you, Cecilia, for sharing all of that with us. I really yeah, and also for taking me on a big learning curve. I really thank you for bringing that energy to this space. I think that you might need some cats.
I would love some cats.
Yeah, you want some cats?
Yes, please.
Okay, Carl, can we have some Bella, please?
So mostly this video will consist of jump cuts and images of a cat just existing, really, and I hope that that's okay.
Hi.
When I'm not really well enough to do much, Bella hangs out here. I always think she looks particularly beautiful, framed by flowers. This is her nosing on the neighbours, who she is both terrified of and intrigued by, which I can relate to. This is her making her first tentative steps towards becoming an outdoor cat. More on that next week, I hope. Yes!
How many takes do you think that last shot took? Or do you think Bella delivered first time straight away?
Oh, I reckon that Bella was Bella had to get really hungry. And I feel like Bella was fed a lot of snacks during that.
Snack.
Yeah.
You know what else I love about Selena, talking of snacks?
Tell me.
She, like me, loves a mince pie.
Thank you for sharing that, James. That's really cool right now. Shall we go swiftly on to our last contribution then?
Maybe we should. Do you want to introduce this one for us?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so our last contribution for today is from the incredible Neville da Costa and Fanny Souza with their project Black Power Naps. And it's a brilliant and epic project that's already creating real world change for Black people and other POC and Indigenous folks. So yeah, cue the video, please, Carl.
What happens to a dream deferred?
Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun?
Or fester like a sore and then run?
Does it stink like rotten meat?
Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet?
Maybe it just sags like a heavy load.
Or does it explode? This is Harlem, a poem by Langston Hughes written in 1932, a very powerful time in Black American insurgence. Dream is seen here as aspiration, an American dream.
But what if Langston was really, literally asking us, how can we dream when we don't sleep?
Hello, my name is Neville DaCosta, formerly known as Nivacosta. I am transgender, gender non-conforming, first-generation Afro-Dominican American born to my HIV-positive and teenage mother, Yesenia Costa.
I'm Fanny Sosa, Afro-Sudaca mover and shaker.
We make art, we educate, we agitate, and we also soothe. We are the co-authors of Black Power Naps, and we no longer want to defer our dreams. I want to know what it's like to live a long life and have clarity of mind, body, and spirit because I sleep deeply. Because a dream deferred can no longer define me. Black Power Naps is what happens when a dream is not deferred.
If you see a Black person sleeping, do not call the cops. Hashtag Black Power Naps. Nabil Denai works focuses in developing pleasurable methodologies using vibrational and sonic therapy, movement practices to liberate the core, transformational social justice publication, and consultations.
In 2006, researchers released the following evidence. Black folks sleep at least 1 hour less than white Americans. We take longer to fall asleep, processing the stress of a criminalized experience. Black folks show the highest rates of sleep disorders nationally. Basically, we need to stay woke. There is a sleep gap across citizenship status, physical ability, class, and importantly, race. Who is dissociating right now? Raise your hand, don't be shy. It's okay. Thank you. This is because you need rest. Lack of sleep is one critical way capitalism crosses negatively and for many fatally with each of our lives. As we will see, lack of sleep has been historically used as a divisive tool.
So you are probably familiar with the zombie mythology. What most people don't know is that zombie is an Afro-Caribbean trope invented to narrate the horrific states of sleep deprivation during slavery. Sleep deprivation was one of the deliberate tools used to ensure a feeble mind, strong body. This structurally upheld exhaustion formed a stereotype of the enslaved as genetically prone to laziness and stupor. Because of the psychic remains of slavery, Black people at rest is to this day seen as loitering, trespassing, or even public indecency. The only way for a Black person to rest in peace in public spaces is death. Capitalism benefits off of the free to cheap to imprison sleepless labor of Black and brown folks.
It is our philosophy that in order to create a 360 view of all oppressive forces, we need to center the people who are the most vulnerable. Black Power Naps is an ongoing research project on sleep technologies, an interactive installation, a publication featuring members of our community, programming, and a sensory calming bath. There are no 90-degree angles at Black Power Naps, always encouraging visitors to repose and stay as long as they need. Bathing in the vibrational technologies that we developed. Black Power Naps combats the sonic terrorism of cities with the use of vibration and sound. Black Power Naps is an urban proposition to mobilize city governments and cultural institutions to structurally support and sustain spaces of decriminalized rest and leisure. Here's a tip. To center the sleep of Black folk, you must not economize, commodify, or extort it. Hand over the keys and leadership, allow the experts to guide.
So let me tell you a little bit more about the devices that we created. This is the pelvic floor. It is a trampoline surrounded by subwoofers acting as a membrane that amplifies the vibration of our pelvic floor. This is a Black Power base. It is a silky circular bed with a Kanngieser hair canopy mobile, joined by a few cybercafe LED signs that read, Liberación y Reparación.
Atlantic reconciliation. The Atlantic is an ocean where a lot of us ended. This installation reconciles water with Black rest and rejuvenation, while bass frequencies rebalances the stagnant waters of the body. Polycrastination station, a collective space and comfortable surface with a hanging vanity above. To look at yourself, you gotta lay down, boo.
The oxygenation swing. Air current, as we know, creates better oxygenation, therefore better quality sleep. For the oxygenation swing, hammocks hanging in the wind allow the resting body to breathe deeper. Black beam bed, this one was really popular with the senior population. Yes. This station is designed with panic attacks in mind. It is a pool filled with 2 tons of dry black beans, heavy blankets and cushions, with hanging fresh herbs and a space blanket canopy.
Liberating these restful spaces takes a village, so I'm glad to have your attention today. We need a financial strategist and producer to help us make this project solvent. We need gallerists to store and display the objects when they're not touring. We need accomplices to help us to commit the crime of paying Black communities to sleep. We need a film crew to follow us as we negotiate and navigate this project with white institutions. We need a long-term production and research residencies in warm locations with strong Black diasporic presence. We need engineering and tech consultancies. We need brand partnerships to create a Black Power Naps loungewear line and sleep fragrances. We need Black Power Naps to be installed permanently in every state in America. We need to work with city commissioners and urban planning to impact public space as well as policy. We need a house in the Caribbean to make Black Power Naps a retreat center. We need more money. We need reparations.
Period.
So, while holding that many economic reparations have yet to be met, let the ask include energetic reparation in the form of access to healthy, sustainable, and rejuvenating leisure, rest, and quality sleep. Thank you.
I love that project so much.
It's so good.
It's such an amazing project. It's so powerful.
It's so powerful. It's so well presented. I love it.
When I told you about it, then you instantly loved it, right?
Yeah, straight away. Can I tell you why?
Please do.
Can I do that? Well, firstly, I love the Black Bean panic attack space. Like, I understand that this is not a space for me, but as a person that has like extremely severe panic attacks that, you know, sometimes I have to go to A&E with them and stuff. Like, I love that they've made a space for that experience because it can be super distressing. So I love that about it. I love the scale of it, that they are really thinking about systemic change across a whole country or across the whole globe. Like, I loved seeing that ambition in artists. I love that it's conceptually really like perfect and well thought out, and it's catchy and it's accessible, but it's also really instigating real world change on a really deep level. And it's also, for me, it's like it's deeply political in its like thinking and its theory, and and everything without compromise. And I think it can be so hard to be in the art world and not compromise, and they have not compromised on, you know, the notion of reparations and rest. And yeah, so in so many ways, it's great. And I think, like, go on their website and like contact them and pick them up. And am I right in thinking that they haven't been to the UK yet?
I have not been to the UK yet. I know, exactly. Like, come on, institutions in the UK, come on, get it together. Bring Black Power Naps to the UK.
Yes.
Bring this generous and defiant, beautiful work to the UK.
Yeah, and like fund them properly when they're here as well.
Definitely.
Like,
they will make sure that they get funded. Which is part of the whole thing. That's exactly the point.
It is, but also to recognise the labour involved in getting paid properly. It's just like, you know. Anyway, you wanted to do some more shout outs?
Because I love a shout out. Also because there's some important ones here. As have all of the ones that we've been. Obviously, we could have just done a whole show of 2 hours without any content. In fact, just on shout outs. Okay, so shout out to Black Trans Femmes in the Arts, which is an initiative that's trying to connect the community of Black trans women and non-binary femmes in the arts and build power between them. So they have a Black Trans Protesters Emergency Fund that's open right now. Please donate if you can. And just to say that Fanny Souza has actually produced a totally on-point digital artwork, which is called WIG, otherwise known as White Institutions Guide to Welcoming Artists of Color and Their Audience. And it is, let me tell you right now, fantastic. It is beautiful and political and funny, and obviously, yeah, it has like a lot of like GIF action. But there's also a cheat sheet that's been created by Eunice Bellador, and that's to accompany the WIG, and it includes some of these tips. So yeah, the advice to white institutions is hold yourselves accountable. If an employee of color is mentioning racism, sexism, anti-blackness, etc., do not defend it, justify it, or find any way possible to avoid it. Instead, find a solution, and don't make your employee responsible for finding solutions or having to respond to any of the situations cited above. So big up to Fanny Souza and Eunice Bellador for providing this brilliant resource to everybody. I also wanted to mention the NAP Ministry, and that is an initiative founded by Trisha Hersey, who's out there in Atlanta, who's actually a Chicagoan now based in Atlanta. And this is an initiative that advances rest and reparations as a radical tool for community healing. So centering Black voices, doing a lot of workshops and doing a lot of kind of like community-based work around these issues. I also wanted to share the beautiful work of Adrienne Marie Brown, particularly the Pleasure Activism book, which draws on the Black feminist tradition to really rethink the ground rules of activism and center a politics of healing and happiness. So Adrienne Marie Brown's How to Survive the End of the World podcast is also on our main reading list, as is Aorta, the work of Aorta, who are a amazing kind of like social justice facilitation group out in America. And I'm sure that lots of people have been thinking and trying to like dig into the Me and White Supremacy workbook, which is Layla F. Saeed's like one of the resources, like the resource that she's been providing since, a while now. And that's getting enough. It's great to see that that's currently getting like loads and loads of like mentions on social media.
Also, shout out to you, Cecilia, because I know you've worked really, really hard on putting together all these shout outs. and it's like super amazing. I think also, like, I know this past week has been really hard for you, and like I hope.
Let's not make it about me. Let's not make it about me. Yeah, I take.
But I also just want to acknowledge the labour involved that you have given to this. Like, I really want to acknowledge that you've worked really hard on it, and just say like appreciation for that. You know what I mean? Take the compliment. Before we go, we have one last thing that you can do, which is go to the share your thoughts button just down below, where you can tell us, respond to the question, what do you need from culture during the COVID-19 global pandemic? And also send us the cute animal videos, please. That's what we want as well.
That's right. We need that as well. People need that. Everybody needs that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you are a white person and you're viewing this and you're thinking, what can I do? Well, hopefully we've given you some ways and like mentioned some ways to participate and actually, yeah, smash down white supremacy. Remember that racism, especially anti-Black racism, is a global phenomenon. It's not just something that happens in the US.
So support Black, Indigenous people of colour. Support their businesses, uplift their work, give it credit. Find out about organisations run by people of colour in your country and in your local area. Support initiatives doing anti-racist and pro-Black work. And for all our UK viewers, the last link that's really important is the UK Black Racial Justice and Community Organisations and Networks. So this is a spreadsheet of just all the like really amazing organisations that you can find out about and support.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely like supporting people in your local area and your local community is so important. Support these people with your time and your money, not just your social media likes. There's plenty that everyone can do, and just keep on doing the work and keep doing the work when Black Lives Matter is no longer front page of the news, when something else is on the top trend on social media. Please keep doing the work next month, next year, next decade, because this road to freedom is an unknowably long one. Just keep doing the work, and we'll keep on trying to do the work as well.
We will be back next week on Wednesday at 2:30 UK time in the afternoon. Hopefully we're going to iron out all the technical glitches. Thanks for bearing with us during that. It's goodbye from me.
And thank you for watching, everyone, and goodbye from me.
Take care yourselves.